everybody, it's Amy, also known as Aussie Stitcher in Texas, here on Flosstube and over on Instagram, here for Flosstube number 9. Please forgive my voice. I was at a conference last week and there was a lot of talking, so the voice is slowly coming back, but hopefully everybody can hear and understand me. Thanks everybody for joining today on this, if you're in Texas, very, very cold, snowy day. We are below freezing for the next couple days. We have some snow and some ice. And if anybody knows Texas, you know that we do not handle that very well. So the world kind of stops here, which isn't necessarily a bad thing when it's this cold. I like being able to stay home and just rug up, and the beauty of being able to work from home, huh? So I'm going to start this time with a little bit of a life update. I have been at a conference last week, so that was a work thing, but over the Christmas New Year period, I was able to travel back to Australia for Christmas time and New Year's to visit with my family for a really nice 3-week vacation. I was working for one of those weeks, but 2 weeks I had off, was able to see everybody. It being the summer vacation time over there, my nieces were off from school. The company my sister works for actually closes down as well over the Christmas period, so she was off. My dad's semi-retired, so everybody was, kind of at my disposal to be able to see and just hang out with, and caught up with some friends from school, and it was just a really great time. I have to admit, I was happy to come home, to come back here, cold weather aside. When you've been away for that long, it's really just nice at some point to be able to come back and be in your own space. I was staying at my sister's house and I always feel very comfortable and welcome there. But there's nothing like your own space and your own bed and just your own things around you. So my last update was December, about towards the end of December before I left. So it's been about 6 or 7 weeks since I have last filmed a traditional Flosstube. I did put up a whip parade last week. I will link it in the eye up the top to send you there. I'll also try and put the link at the end of this video as well. I'm still learning all the YouTube-y editing options, and hopefully each time I'm improving from there. But yeah, it's been about 6 weeks. I have done a lot of stitching in that time. I did only take 2 projects with me to Australia, so they saw a lot of love. I actually got my niece into cross stitching a little bit. She was working on my pieces, and then also I got her a little one just from the craft store that they have out there. Don't know if she's finished it, and even if she has, I don't necessarily think it's something that she'll be picking up in the future to keep doing. I think it was just a fun thing to do while I was visiting. And she worked on a few of mine, so it's nice to know that those pieces I have will have a little bit of one of my nieces in there as well. I also have done a decent amount of shopping while during the break and everything, and I've gotten about 4 or 5 fabric of the month clubs that have come through because I missed end of December. I've got that bunch. The end of January, I've got that bunch, and then also I had purchased a piece of fabric as well for a future project. So while we are here, let's get into it. What I'm going to do is start with the pieces I worked on while I was in Australia. Let me just grab those. Okay, so while I was in Australia, one of the pieces I took was actually a gift I'm going to be giving to one of my friends. It is Life with Tequila from Stitchrovia. Up here you will see what it looked like the last time you saw it. It was actually the last time I worked on it. And here is where we are up to now. So I am almost finished with this. I have gotten a huge amount of progress. This stitched up like so quickly. Even with all the various mistakes, I kept putting the flowers in the wrong spot and the leaves in the wrong spot, but that was just me being distracted while I was stitching. Nothing against the piece itself. So I really just have to finish here. There's a salt shaker up here, and then another down the bottom, just like a little, like the little flower motif thing that's up the top here. This is stitched on a 28 count fabric that I just picked up at one of the craft stores and hand dyed myself. I just threw some Rit dye, I think it was the color tan, into a bowl with this, very quickly, very lightly dyed it because the fabric it was called for was not a pure white, and I couldn't find a tan color, so I just thought, I'll pay the $3 for some Rit dye and do it myself. Or the called for DMC 2/2. Like I said, stitching up so quickly, it'll be done soon, and then I'll be able to finish it. If anybody's got finishing ideas for something like this, it is a gift that I'm going to give to one of my friends whose birthday's in February. So I am open to absolutely any finishing that you have to offer. And then if you've done a great one yourself and you want to link it in the comments below, please go ahead. I'm always interested to see what people do for finishing, because so far all I have done is a couple of flat folds. One second. Excuse me. Couple of flat folds, and I made some little ornaments. So I'm not the best at finishing yet, but I am learning, and that is something that, you know, practice makes perfect. The next piece that I had taken with me to Australia was Visit Lothlorien by Country Magic Stitch. This is what it will look like when it's finished. Great, this is full coverage. I'll bring it a little bit closer, there we go. Absolutely stunning. I'm really liking it, lots of block color. Here is a photo of where you saw it the last time. And I got, I think 2,000 or 3,000 stitches on this. I mean, the beauty of only bringing 2 projects with me to Australia was that those 2 projects got a lot of love. So here we go. Here is where I am up to. So I am about a quarter of the way. This is about 25 or 26% of what it is. And I'm just absolutely loving it. Like I said, lots of block color. So although this was a little bit finicky in these kind of shingles, ceiling tiles, whatever you want to call them. Roof tiles, not ceiling. But for the most part, lots of block color, which just makes for great, throw it on the Q-snap, thread up a few needles and just go. Absolutely love it. I do also have the Visit the Mines of Moria piece from Country Magic Stitch, but as I've said before, I am trying to exhibit a little bit of self-control. That self-control is starting to wane, I'm not going to lie. But I do want to try and only have, I think Rachel Ray, who gave me the idea of only having 1 piece per artist on the go at any one time. So until I finish this, I am telling myself I cannot start the Visit the Mines of Moria. Now, that may or may not change as, you know, if I have a hankering to start it, that might happen. But, you know, while I can exhibit some self-control, I am going to try to exhibit some self-control. Okay. So the next piece I worked on was my Dark Queen of the Sea. I didn't bring this with me to Australia because at the time I'd left, because the parts release on the 1st of every month. When I'd left, the part hadn't come out yet, and I didn't want to have to take all these extra threads that I may not need. And I just thought, you know what, I get back middle of January. I'll still have time to finish this part before February. Unless they release like a 5,000 piece part, which, you know, has happened before, but luckily they did not this time. So this is the Dark Queen of the Sea, all up to date. I will have put up a few seconds ago what it looked like the last time you saw it. Part 5 complete. So I am halfway done. The next part releases tomorrow, February 1st. And I just love this piece. This is on a 32 count linen in the color Nightshade by Under the Sea Fabrics. This is the second collaboration, Autumn Lane Stitchery. If I didn't say that already, Dark Queen of the Earth by Autumn Lane Stitchery. The second time they've collaborated with Under the Sea Fabrics to do the fabric that goes with the piece. So this is just stunning. All the called for, which is DMC, and then this kind of like yellow is a Petite Treasure, a silk labé. And just, I'm loving it. I'm kind of wondering, the Dark Queen of the Seas, which I do have not finished. I don't know if I will finish it, but we kind of started in the middle and then worked our way up. This time we've started in the middle, worked our way down. And I'm wondering if that's because with the Dark Queen of the Sea, she was so bottom heavy that I think a lot of people got a little bit burned out at the end, because like I said, there was a release that I swear was about 5,000 stitches. There was a lot of block color, but it was about 5,000 stitches, which I think towards the end of a stitch along was just a little bit much for people. So this time I feel like they've kind of done the opposite. Get all the heavy stitching over with, and then we move up. But in saying that, I could be completely and totally wrong. You can, because it's a mystery stitch along, you can't actually see what the whole piece is going to look like, but you do kind of have a bit of a shadowing in the in what they send to give you a general idea of what it looks like. She does look like she's got a lot going on up top, so I could be eating my words in a couple of months and it could be just as heavy, but we will see, and we will cross that bridge when we come to it. Okay. The next piece I worked on, which was just a little bit of, you know, I had some time, wanted to do something quick, was my Autumn by the Cricket collection. I will throw up a photo of what it looked like the last time you saw it. This is on a just a piece of Monaco that I hand dyed myself using Rit dye, using all the called for DMC. The only thing I have changed up, apart from using the DMC version versus one of the fancy flosses, was in the pumpkin. I don't think you can see it. I used a toile in his little hat. But this is so adorable. I absolutely love this. This is what I like to call a small piece versus the giant pieces that I normally work on. And funny story with this, if anybody who follows me on Instagram, you may know this. For my conference, it was in San Francisco, so I thought I'm going to take something to stitch on the plane. It's about a 3-hour flight. I could read, but I was like, you know, sometimes I'm not in the mood to read. I wanted the option to stitch something. So I brought this on board with me. It's in the little Q snap. Perfect. So I thought. So I got some stitches in. I got maybe 20 or just like the bottom of this, which I did wrong, had to frog and then redo again. And then thought, oh, I'm gonna take my Instagram photo. I'm all ready, I get it all set up, what I think is nicely. I'm not a photographer, I did the best I could. Boom, take my photo, pick my piece up, needle, gone. And for whatever reason, I only brought one needle. Normally when I travel, I bring at least 2. This time I just thought, no, what are the odds of me losing a needle? I never lose needles, or if I do, I can find them again. Well, I've never lost a needle on a plane before, so that's much harder to find. I, you know, was looking around my feet. I'm moving very gingerly to see if it's just like fallen in my lap. You know, needle gone. Needle belongs to that aircraft now, or wherever it is. If it fell in the bag of the girl next to me, I don't know, but it's gone, and hopefully it doesn't cause any problems for that aircraft. But that is Autumn by the Cricket collection. Then finally, actually no, not finally, I apologize. I have a new start, which I should have done early on. So I am participating in the Teresa Made Me Do It sale. So if you're not aware what that is, Teresa Little Stitcher here on Flosstube and on Instagram as well. She does a live pretty much every week, or at least she has for a number of months. It does, you know, schedules, sometimes she doesn't. But in that live, she had Charlotte of Stitching with the Kids Around, I will tag both of these people, had shown Teresa the Magwayan Bella Filipina. Well, Teresa jumped on the bandwagon, told everybody about it on one of her lives, and then everybody all of a sudden wanted to stitch it. But then, you know, the thing came up of some people didn't want to stitch Magwayan, some people maybe had something in their stash. So it then became what was going to be called the Fancy Lady Sal, or something along those lines. She threw it out to the community, see what they wanted to call it, and everybody came back with Teresa Made Me Do It. So that's what it's called, Teresa Made Me Do It Sal. There is a Facebook group, there is the hashtag that you can use, and Teresa talks about it quite a bit. She's done a number of stitch-alongs where she's stitching on Magwayan. I think Magwayan is beautiful, but I already had a Bella Filipina in my stash. So I was like, let's, you know, start from the stash first. And if down the line I want to purchase Magwayan, I can. But so I am doing still a Bella Filipina. I want to say Vella for some reason. Bella Filipina, one of the mermaids, which I cannot pronounce to save my soul. I have tried. I'm probably getting it wrong, but it is this one, the Maiden of Tubbataha. I do apologize if that's wrong. But this is, I've had this one for probably about a year. I bought this pretty much when she came out. Absolutely love it. First mermaid I am stitching. Can I say, does Drin love his chronic? I do not love Krynic, but that's what it calls for. I am doing this on a 32 count lugana in the color Cersei from Fabrics by Stephanie. It's a bit darker than the called for. I'm actually gonna leave this folded up actually. Oh, that's the back of it. That's not gonna help anyone. So we're gonna unfold it anyway. Forgive me not ironing this piece. And this is what I have done so far. So I did a middle start, started working my way down, did have to put some Krynic in just to help me get from point A to point B. And then I'm all up in the massive head of hair that she has. Now I do have a question, because this does have a lot of Krynic and Krynic in the middle. I do feel like though I put enough in to get me from that point A to point B, so I don't need to put any more in. But do you guys put Krynic in this early? I previously have only really put Krynic in at the end, so then that way I don't have to worry about my Q-snap messing anything up and then having to do it all over again, because as we know, Krynic is not always the easiest to work with. But I just put maybe 10 or 15 stitches in here. Most of the Krynic is kind of here, and then a bunch of beads and everything as well. But if anybody does Krynic early and then just, I do put felt over the fabric and potential stitching when it's before it goes into the Q-snap. So there is a little bit more protection than just, you know, Q-snap clamp stitching. There's that piece of felt I put in between to protect it. I obviously leave beading to the end because there's no way beading would handle a Q-snap being put over it. It would break either the bead or the fabric. So, but Krynic, I am interested. If you Krynic early on and it stays okay, let me know in the comments. And I would love to be able to Krynic as I go, or at least in stages, versus having a Krynic at the end when I just want to, you know, shoot somebody at the end. So that is my Bella Filipina. And then finally, I worked on my Garden Prelude by Mirabilia. I will put up a photo of what she looked like the last time you saw her. So I didn't do a huge hell of a lot, partly for a few reasons. One, I kept making mistakes over the last 2 days. Two, I was doing the back stitching. So the back stitching around her face, on the violin. This is on a 32 count lugana in the color Loki by Fabrics by Stephanie. I absolutely love this look that it gives. More of a nighttime scene versus the kind of called for tan, milk chocolate, whatever it was. I just thought that was a little too muted for me. I wanted it to, you know, pop a little bit more. But this piece is massive. These archways, I thought were gonna be the death of me because, so, I mean, you can see where the middle is, right? Kind of right about here. Boom, straight down. And the way the chart works is it's a vertical chart. Sorry. So it's, you know, kind of the massive piece of paper, vertically direction, it's in the vertical direction. So then the line right down the middle is the middle. I miscounted somewhere. I've either miscounted back here in my going up, or I had miscounted here with this straight across the line because of where it grays itself out to say this is the middle. Because I had done all of this, I came down, I was doing this, and then I realized I'm looking a little too close to the kind of tip of the violin. So when I counted, sure enough, I was 2 stitches short and had to frog about 100 and something stitches to get back out there, to do it again, to realize I had done it wrong again, to frog out another 30 or 40 stitches. So she almost went into a timeout, but I was like, no, I'm gonna persevere for just a couple of days before she goes away and I start doing all my February stuff. But this is so stunning. I did do the skin 1/1. I have to admit, I don't like it. I think the color is too harsh. You know, the color of her skin goes from like one to the other. I think it's too harsh. I feel like when it's 2/2, it's not as harsh. And I really had hoped that when I put the back stitching in, she would just pop the skin would have been all worth it all that time. I don't think it is. I don't think I'm going to do 1/1 skin again. Bridget, if you're watching, you had asked about 1/1 skin. Is it worth it? I personally don't think it is. But then again, I've seen other pieces where people have done 1/1 skin and it looks absolutely phenomenal. So maybe they've just been smarter than me and actually kind of changed up some of the skin colors so it doesn't look so harsh. But, I've done Andromeda. I did her skin 2/2 as was called for, and I think she looks great as well. So, but you got to try something to figure out if you like it or not. And overall though, this piece is, I can't wait till she's done and I can frame her and get her on my ladies wall, as I don't know if I'm going to call it that, but I do have a wall planned kind of opposite where I'm looking on my left to where I'm going to hang up all my fancy ladies. So those are the whips I worked on for kind of December, January. So it's about 6 weeks worth of stitching. Like I said, I did go a little bit crazy when it comes to shopping while I was in Australia. I think because I didn't have stuff around me to look at, if I wanted to look at, I went shopping. So I jumped on 123stitch and picked up a couple of things, more than a couple of things I had in my wish list. First off being, which one is this called? Miss Christmas Eve, Mirabilia by Nora Corbett. That dress, I love that her face is kind of turned away because I feel like sometimes faces can look a little weird. Her face is turned away, so it's just kind of the profile that you get. And like that dress, I don't know what fabric I'm going to do this on. I don't know if I'm going to do the called for, which is desert sand linen. And because I've seen some people do it on like this pinky orange mottled fabric, and it looks, you would think would look wrong. It looks amazing on the finished piece. So I may jump into the fabric viewer and just kind of play around with different things to see what catches my fancy. But I purchased that. I also went a little crazy with the drawn thread. So like I said, I've got the Cricut collection, winter completed, autumn is also completed. I don't think I'll be purchasing spring and summer. I don't like those. I think the words fade too much into the fabric, and I'm not sophisticated enough in my stitching world to be able to know like what to change out and things like that to kind of make it pop a little bit more. So for right now, they're going to be, I'm not going to do those, but the drawn thread, I do like all of their seasonal pieces. So I picked up from the drawn thread, Welcome Winter, Forgive the Glare, Welcome Spring, love that, Welcome Summer, this one I really like, the flag, and just looks so pretty, and Welcome Autumn, also very pretty. So those are the seasonal ones I picked up. I also picked up 2 additional Halloween ones. So there's Welcome Halloween. I love the cat. Even though I'm not a cat person, I just love how it's in the W. I think it looks great. And Almost Halloween. So fantastic. That was my haul from 123stitch, which came through in a couple of days. You gotta love 123stitch being only like a 45-minute drive away from me. It makes for a quick delivery. I cannot wait though until they open up their store. Then we finally have in my haul the various fabric of the month clubs that have come through since basically December. I have 2 Under the Sea fabrics. I am in her club and I get a 32 count something. The beauty of Leslie's fabric of the month club is she will post up generally about a month before it's going to go out what the color is. So you can see what it looks like dyed on, Lugana, Joberlin, linen, and Ada. And then you can choose from there. I think my standard choice is the 32 count even weave of some kind. I can't remember if I picked Lugana or Joberlin, but you know, you can jump in if you think, oh, the linen looks better this time, or this one looks better that time. You can just change it up, or if you want to increase your count, you can do that as well. So that's what I like. So we're going to start with the December fabric of the month. I'm actually not going to take it out of the fabric because it doesn't look too modeled or anything. I mean, out of the plastic. This is December, and the color is green tea. This is a 32 count Lugana. So it's not showing up the best. No, it's fading out. So it is basically what you think a green tea color would look like, a very light, pale green, which I don't have in my head right now, but I can use that on, but it's the beauty of the fabric of the month. You can figure it out later. The next is a 32 count Lugana again, so that must be what I get is the Lugana, because I don't remember commenting on this to change up. In the color, I want to say Nephlis. I could be wrong. I think she's an Egyptian goddess of something. And it is this wonderful color. Absolutely beautiful. Next up is I am also in the Be Stitch Me fabric of the month. I get the 40 count Verdal for that. So to kind of change up some of I'm pretty much a 32 or a now 40 count. I've only done one piece on 40 count, some little ornaments I did for friends, but I do like the idea of having some smaller pieces where we can. And let's start with the December fabric of the month is called Evergreen. This one I'm actually going to take out of the plastic. Excuse the crinkling, I do apologize. So this is Evergreen, like I said, 40 count Verdal. And look at that. Oh, stunning. Nicely modeled, neutral, great. Although this is the color, not the neutral. I am in the alternate, so you say I'll take a color or a neutral. So she has the choice of the neutral club, where you get neutrals, the color club, which is all colors, or the various. So it's kind of from one month to the next. I could get a neutral, I could get a color, which I thought was a good way to build up. I don't normally see myself drawn to neutral colors, but sometimes you do need a neutral, and I figured this is a good way to get a couple of neutrals in my stash. But that is Evergreen, the December fabric of the month. So let me just fold this up. I will not put it back in the plastic. Next up was the one that just came yesterday. So thank you, Postal Services, for working in this crazy weather that we're having. Again, 40 count Verdal. This one is a neutral, and this is Hot Cocoa, which I don't know if this is going to come up. No, you can barely see that. Terrible lighting, I'm sorry. It's called a Hot Cocoa, but I would actually liken it to kind of a ballet slipper type color. It's got a little bit of pink to it, but very nice, very nice. That will be used somewhere. And then finally, also from Be Stitch Me, I had purchased this is not a fabric of the month, this is a regular purchase because I have plans on doing the Lila Studios Halloween Quaker, and that needs a 40 count, but I'm not a huge fan of linen, so I went with the only person I know who does the Verdal is Brandy from Be Stitch Me. I'm sure there's many more out there. She's just the only one I knew of. So I went onto her website over Thanksgiving and, looked around and decided on the Tsunami, the color Tsunami, which is this for my Halloween Quaker. Came out, it's kind of more modeled than what the picture is, but I mean, that's what you get with hand-dyed fabrics, but I still think this is going to work for Halloween Quaker, if need be. I mean, I'm not that confident, but I could always throw some more dye on it if I felt the need, but I don't think I will because I'd probably ruin it. So that's what I'm going to use for Halloween Quaker whenever I decide to start that. I know there's a couple of stitch-alongs happening. Bridget, the museum stitcher, had started one, obviously around Halloween, that I may jump in on at some point when I when I decide to start that, because I don't, oh no, I do have a Halloween piece on the go, but it's not by Leela Studios. And if I stick to my one project per designer, I don't have a Leela Studios. So I'm not breaking that rule. Hi, me again. The power of editing, huh? There's one thing I forgot to show everybody. While I was back in Australia, my father handed me one of my mom's cross stitches that I hadn't realized he'd been keeping a hold of. If you don't know, I did say this back in my kind of first Flosstube where I introduced myself. I started cross stitching as a kid. My mother was a big cross stitcher. I did a little bit of cross stitching with her as a kid. As a typical child, the attention span of a squirrel, and you know, I didn't do a lot of it. Got back into it in 2020. It was something that always interested me, but I thought, you know what, I'm gonna get back into this. Well, my mom unfortunately passed away when I was a teenager, and we only have a couple of her pieces left. While she was a big cross stitcher, some of the pieces we have either were kind of old-fashioned flowers that just ended up getting, you know, I'd probably thrown away at some point. There is a massive fancy lady that she did. I can't remember who it's from, but it is a Native American woman with a dream catcher. And gosh, I remember her working on that. It took her months, but that's actually at my sister's house and in a frame, so I couldn't bring that home with me. But I didn't realize my dad had a piece that had never been framed and was just in a tube here, and he gave it to me to keep. So this is a piece my mother did. I remember her doing this, but I can't tell you, I couldn't tell you when exactly it was. She passed away in 2001, so, and she unfortunately had cancer, so towards the end she wasn't doing a lot of crafting, but so I would say this would have to be late 90s. That's my best guess. Late 90s, maybe as early as 2000, but after that her cross stitching unfortunately had to stop. But it is a Christmas piece, and it is on it's an Aida, an oatmeal type of Aida, but it has a little bit of iridescent to it. Couldn't tell you the name of the fabric, couldn't tell you the name of the artist. I don't have any of that. I just have this piece. Look at that. There is sparkle, there is shimmer, there are buttons. I mean, there's sequins. This is not full coverage, but probably 80% of this is full coverage. Everything is stitched. And I mean, if you're thinking the late 90s in Australia, any of my Australian stitchers who watch, tell me, fabric was not a prevalent thing. I remember my mom stitching, it was pretty much always just on a white Aida, maybe a oatmeal or something like that. But she did linen once, and that was on the fancy lady that she had done. Otherwise it was just always Aida. You picked it up from like Lincraft or Spotlight, yep. And that's what you did. But this is a piece of my mom. So nice for me to have, to know that, she worked on this, she touched this, her blood, sweat, and tears went into this, because I'm sure at some point she messed up, as we all do. Although, my mom was pretty good. I don't remember her ever cursing at her stitching. But I also wanted to show the back. Look at that back. Look how good she was. The only time she was carrying threads was in some of these, like over here, where it was like from a star to stitching. She just didn't do like one stitch at a time. She did carry, but for the most part, my gosh, perfection. Good job, Karen. If you're watching over me, hopefully you are. But I just wanted to share this with everybody. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Part of me would love to have it framed to, protect it as much as I could. But then another part of me, I like being able to touch it. And I know I shouldn't touch it because hands are dirty and whatnot. But, the sentimental part of me likes being able to hold something my mother worked on. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. Thanks, and back to our regular scheduled programming. Well, thank you everybody for joining me today and listening. I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much to everybody who has been watching my videos, liking and subscribing and commenting. You know, every comment, you know, sends, you know, a little bit of warmth into my heart. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. If you're in Texas, in the north of Texas, please stay warm, stay home, stay safe. Let us hope our power grid can handle this cold. Thanks everybody. Bye.